The world loves their crossovers. Blah, 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 blah. I mean, hell, I'll be honest here, I even bought one myself. My wife now drives a 2016 and a half Mazda CX-5. We would have bought the Mazda 6 wagon if it were offered here. There aren't a lot of wagons out there to choose from, but Volkswagen knows that its fan base enjoys wagons. They enjoy the long roof. And they're here with a new one that's not just content to stick around on the pavement. This is the all-new Volkswagen Golf Alltrack, and it's the answer for those seeking to take their wagons to the dirt and live adventurous lifestyles without buying into the crossover hype. You can think of this as the Audi Allroad Jr. And we're going to take it to the dirt to see just how far we can push it. What will we be using to push it? Here, we're dealing with Volkswagen's now familiar EA888 engine. It's a turbocharged inline four-cylinder engine. It's a 1.8-liter unit here. It makes 170 horsepower and just 199 pound-feet of torque. Doesn't sound like a lot, and it isn't much for a vehicle weighing 3,400 pounds. However, this car gets out of its own way pretty darn well. I've been handling it back and forth on the Hooniverse Highway Hooning Grounds, and it's doing an admirable job. The electrically tuned power-assisted steering feels way better than it should. Those of you who are still trying to figure this out, take note. This is a pretty good way to do it. The heft doesn't feel too artificial, which is a big thing to making this go a long way towards driving enjoyment. There's not a ton of, sensation of what those front tires are doing, but you do have a handle on what overall is going on with the car. Now, I mentioned that torque, 199 pound-feet. It's available from just 1,600 RPMs, and that's a good thing because that's what helps this feel lighter than it does. It's once you start throwing it at the corners, then you feel the weight. This has a half-inch lift over the standard Golf Sport Wagon, but Volkswagen have also fitted taller tires. So the ground clearance here is 6.9 inches versus 5.5 for the standard Sport Wagon. So you have a little bit of leeway to get this thing dirty. And that's what we're going to do. So this isn't going to be what the average Golf Alltrack owner does, but they can, and that's nice to know. You can throw your mountain bikes up there on a roof rack and go to your favorite trail and get in and out, no problem. This proves that you don't need a crossover to do everything you can. There are some good crossovers on the market for those that live an adventurous lifestyle. Volvo has a lifted wagon in the V60 Cross Country. Subaru makes the Outback, the Crosstrek, and the Forester. This feels nicer than the Subaru offerings, and it's not quite as expensive and premium as the Volvo offering, so it's a nice middle ground. And it's not a crossover. This is a real wagon. It's easy to load things in and out of the back because the load floor is so low. Its driving dynamics are that of a Golf, which is great. I already told you the electronically assisted steering is tuned rather wonderfully. So if you want to take this off-road and do dip things, you can do dip things like that, because it has a real e-brake too, and that's lots of fun. The Golf Alltrack rides on the familiar MQB chassis, so you know it's going to be good because everything on that chassis is just that. This one though has 4Motion. It's not a sporty all-wheel drive system. It's definitely not as thrilling as something like Subaru's symmetrical all-wheel drive. Here we're sending 90% of the torque up front until slip is detected. So that's not thrilling, but it can send torque back. There's also a hill descent control system which works surprisingly well. If you take your foot off the brake and the gas, it'll slow your roll down the hill. That's what hill descent control does. And that does that in off-road mode automatically. Now, there's another feature where the axles can lock laterally, but it's not a real center locking differential situation. It's basically torque vectoring via braking, which isn't really torque vectoring, but it's the type of torque vectoring that exists for a lot of the industry. So I told you that we have the EA888 under the hood. Hold on while I pucker up for this to see what kind of ground clearance we have. Oh, there we go. What an approach angle. This engine is backed up by a 6-speed DSG, and it seems to be pretty well sorted. I have my issues with DSG where occasionally it's either too gas friendly or too hyper aggressive in sport. This toes the line surprisingly nicely. You dip into the throttle and it'll downshift a gear, but if you relax, it'll relax too, which is nice to see from DSG. Often it gets it oddly wrong there. Otherwise, it's a great gearbox that shifts nice and quickly. Those of you that prefer a manual gearbox, oh, this part's kind of scary. Those of you that prefer a manual gearbox, you're in luck. It's not here yet, but for the 2017 model year, the S and the SE trims are going to get it. It's a shame you can't get it in the fully loaded SEL like this one is. Ouch, ouch. But this one is nice, it's very nicely equipped, and it's not terribly expensive. These start around $25,000, I believe, 25 to 27. This one is pretty fully loaded, and it's 35. An equivalently fully loaded Forester is also 35. So if you want the crossover and you want that adventurous lifestyle, you can get it with the Subaru. If you want something a little bit nicer and you realize that wagons are better than everything, this is the car for you. This is a wonderful piece of machinery. It's in hill descent control mode right now, which is good because this is a steep as hell hill, and I'm actually kind of nervous to take the car on this. This is now forever known as Rugged Ridge Road. It's our off-road portion of the Hooniverse Highway Hooning Grounds. And we did have fun in this car on the road. It handles like a golf wagon. There's a little bit more body roll, there's a little bit more time to set up in corners, but you know that, and you should expect that in this car, and it actually can make you smile and laugh a little bit, and then just hang on through the corner. It's a fun ride here. Blah, 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 I need a crossover, I need a crossover. No, you don't. Look at this thing. We're three-wheel motion right now in a golf wagon. The suspension works perfectly. This is even with these tires that are nothing special. What are these? What do we have here? These are Continentals. Imagine if you threw some KO2s on here or something awesome, you could really take this even deeper. We went through some surprisingly rough stuff, came out unscathed. There might be some scratches underneath the car, but that's not, here or there. That's what these things are designed to do. They're designed to go on an adventure, and that's what we've done with this car. So listen up, America. You don't need those crossovers. You want to sit higher up, that's fine, but you're just fooling yourself. With a wagon, you sit nice and low because the car rides better. You have better driving dynamics. You have better fuel economy. You are just as capable. You have just as much utility. You have a better looking vehicle. Wagons rule, and this is proof.